it is time for a very late June wrap up, but better late than never. So if you're new here, hi, I'm Ashley and welcome to my channel. And if you're not new here, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about the 15 books that I read in June. I had an average rating of about 4.18, so it was a good reading month, and I read about 5,400 pages. So let's get into it. First book that I read was Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. This is the second book in this duology, and it is a fake marriage romance that takes place in Napa Valley. It's been a while. What are these names? Natalie has to marry August in order to get access to her trust fund so she can make a name for herself away from her mother and her father and their fortune. I really like this book. I did enjoy the first book a little bit better, but it was fun to read. I really like August a lot. I thought that he was a hilarious main male interest, and I love Tessa Bailey's writing. It's just so good. She writes such good spicy scenes, and I also just I loved the cat that was in it. I thought the cat was freaking hilarious. But I highly recommend this duology. It is now complete, so you can read it back to back like I did, and it was an amazing experience, so check these out. Next, I read The Kingmaker by Kennedy Ryan, and these got republished with new covers, so I got an e-arc of the new cover edition. And I ended up giving it 3 out of 5 stars. So this book is about Lennox, and I can't remember the guy's name. Anyway, so Lennox is Native American, is her heritage, and she constantly protests to try to keep indigenous people on their own land and keep them with their rights, everything that has to do with that. So she also gets into politics in order to fight from within to save her people. And the male interest is the son of the owner of an oil company who is taking land from Lennox's people. So they meet when Lennox is 17 and the guy is in his 20s, just finished college, so obviously she's underage, nothing happens then. But he kind of says F you to his dad and goes and protests with her. She has no idea who he is. But then they also meet up again, I believe it was Germany, a few years later. They meet up in Germany. And they just keep crossing paths, and there's like a lot of things going on, and it was really, really good. I love seeing Lennox fight for her people. I absolutely loved that entire part. It was just so heartwarming and moving to see it, and I just loved her as a character. She was very strong, very opinionated in a good way. It was great, and I really did enjoy their romance. I just did not enjoy the constant time jumps. There was like at least 4 or 5 time jumps, and it just bugged the hell out of me. Like, I get why, I'm just not a fan of those. But I did get the second book because the first book leaves off on a huge cliffhanger, and I need to know what happens next, so I'm excited to read the next book. Next, I read Half-Blood by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is a reread for me. I end up listening to this on audio because I want to reread the series, because I know there's a spin-off series and I never read it, so I'm refreshing my memory. So this book is about Alex, who is a half-blood, and in this world there are beings that are kind of descendants of these gods. There's the purebloods and then there the half-bloods. And purebloods, of course, top of society, like, they never get in trouble. They just get a little slap on the wrist and that's it. And the half-bloods, if they do something wrong, they can basically be killed. So Alex, she had left the half-blood like academy type place with her mom because her mom was like, we gotta go. But then eventually the demons catch up and Alex is forced to go back. And a lot of things happen from there. I don't want to say anything more because it will give it away, but this is a really good book. It's a very bingeable series, and there is a love triangle in it, so if you're not into that, this may not be a book for you, but it is a very good series. It's fun. I absolutely love the magic in it because the purebloods, they can kind of like usually control like an element, like there's ones that control wind and stuff like that, and it's just, it's so good. Highly recommend it. I also read this, listened to the sequel, Pure, and I gave this one 5 out of 5 stars as well. Just a lot of fun. This one gets even deeper into the overall arching plot for the series, and you get to see more of Seth in this one, and Seth is one of my favorite characters. He's just awesome. So this was a great experience rereading this, and the audiobooks are actually really, really good. So I do recommend listening to on audio. I know my Hoopla has it, so yours most likely will too, but definitely check them out. Next, I read Always Isn't Forever by J.C. Cervantes, and I gave this book 4.5 out of 5 stars. This was one of my favorite books I read this month. This is about Hart Augustus is his name. I was thinking his name was August. Hart and Ruby. So they've been best friends since they were little kids, and they actually are now dating, and they're in like their senior year, like going into their senior year, I believe. Like they're reaching the end. They're excited for their future together. But then Hart ends up drowning while on a boat, and Ruby's life is kind of just, she's destroyed by it. She lost the love of her life, and she doesn't know how to cope with it. But Hart is not really gone. He ends up given a second chance by being able to go into the body of the local bad boy, since the local bad boy also basically was dying, kind of dead. So the body was open for the taking, and Hart went in there, and he has to kind of convince Ruby to fall in love with him again, try to get her to guess who he is, because Hart cannot tell her that he is Hart. This book was just, it made me cry, honestly, like seeing the grief, seeing everything that Ruby had to go through, and how strong she still was after it, and how she still maintained her characteristics while going through this, because a lot of people do tend to lose themselves in grief. It was just amazing. I loved the writing. It was just absolutely beautiful. It was amazing. I don't know what else to say about it, because I just loved it so much. I highly recommend it. Next, I read Miss Perfectly Fine by Kate Callahan, and this is about Autumn. What's it about? Autumn and Elijah. I have it open on my laptop right here because I'm so bad at remembering character names. So this is about Autumn and Elijah. Autumn lives in this house, and she has a landlord, and she has the entire house. And then one day she gets woken up by a bunch of movers, and this one guy, Elijah, moving in. She was not told by her landlord that Elijah was moving in, but he was. And so it's forced proximity romance, and I loved it. I thought it was so good. There is a dog. Any romance with a dog, I'm instantly like in love, because I'm such a dog person. And they were just such a cute couple. And Autumn, she is a pianist. Yeah, she plays piano like professionally and everything, and she's also suffering from long-term effects of an injury that she had when she was a kid, when the building that she was playing the piano in kind of collapsed and also killed her best friend in the process. So she's dealing with an illness, she's dealing with a disability, everything like that. So you get to see her go through love, pain, everything, and it was a lot deeper than I thought it was going to be, and that was a very nice surprise. I highly recommend this book. It was so good. Next, I reread Echoes and Empires by Morgan Rhodes, and I listened to this on audio from my library. This is about, I am so bad with remembering names, Jocelyn Drake. Jocelyn Drake, she is high in society, and she ends up accidentally getting magic in her, and magic in this world is illegal. So she ends up getting help from this criminal, Jericho, in order to get the magic out of her, because Jericho actually needs that magic to bring to his master. I love the series. It's so cool. It kind of melds together like medieval type magic with modern day technology, like cell phones and skyscrapers, cars, all that type of stuff. And it's a really cool blend. I love the magic in it. I love the characters. It's just a lot. It's a lot of fun. And I just love Morgan Rhodes. I read her Fallen Kingdom series, and it was so good. And I feel like not a lot of people talk about this duology, and I think they should, because the first book was amazing. I think I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. I don't know if I said that, but now you know. I also read the sequel, which was Legends and Liars. I'm doing great today, you guys. We're doing great. So I read Legends and Liars, and this one I actually only gave 3 out of 5 stars because the ending really annoyed me. it was just so open-ended. We don't know how anything's going to affect society. I felt like there needed an epilogue explaining the impacts and how the world was doing after certain events, because it just felt unfinished, honestly. But it was still an enjoyable duology overall, and I do still recommend it. Then I read The Clash of Fate and Fury by Rachel Menard, and this is the second book in the Labors of Jen duology. And I love the first book. The first book I gave 4 out of 5 stars. This one I ended up giving 3 out of 5 stars. It just wasn't as good. In this one, the main character has to go on 2 tasks, like she has to go 2 adventures kind of, and 75%, 80% focused on the first task, and maybe a good 10%, 15% of the book, rest of the book focused on the second task. It just didn't seem well balanced out, and this was another one where the ending just felt extremely unfinished. But it's only a duology, so this is the last book. Endings are very big for me. I closed the book feeling unsatisfied, and I just didn't enjoy this one as much. Next, I read Playing for Keeps by Tristan Crone, and I ended up giving this one 4 out of 5 stars. It's a cute romance. So this is about Farron and Sebastian. Farron is a substitute teacher, and she has board game nights every Friday at like this local bakery coffee shop type thing with her friends, and she's obsessed with board games, such a nerd. I love it. It's what drew me into this book. And Sebastian is a workaholic for, I think it's a tech company, I can't remember, but 100% workaholic, does not have his priorities straight, and then he goes to this bakery, and because he wants a specific pastry that they posted about that day because it was brand new, and Farron ends up getting the last one. He kind of just goes up to her and was like, that's my pastry, and she's like, I will play you for it in a game. And that's how their little friendship turned into romance, and it was so cute. I loved it. What kept it from being 5 out of 5 stars was because Sebastian was just very annoying. I did not like his character that much because he was just the workaholic thing. He said very mean things to people, and it annoyed me so much. But I did love the book. I love the romance. I love the spicy scenes. I love seeing also the friendships bloom with the side characters too. It's so good. Next, I read Starlings by Amanda Linsmeyer, and this is a YA thriller, and it is about Kit and her mother. So her father died, and all throughout her life her father told her like he has no other family. His dad's dead, mom's dead, so she had no family on that side. But then after he died, she gets a letter from her grandma on her dad's side and finds out that his mother is still alive. So Kit and her mother go to their town to meet her and kind of figure out why her dad never told her about her. And it's so good. Creepy things are happening in the town. People go missing, people show up dead, and it is the perfect spooky atmosphere book. Like, I actually wish I read this during Halloween time because it was just so good. It would have been perfect for Halloween. But I love the spooky atmosphere. I had a lot of theories while I was reading it as to what was going to happen, and some of them didn't turn out correct, and I'm really, really happy that they did. I'm not going to say what those theories were because I don't want to give you spoilers, but it went in a really good direction. I ended up giving this 4 out of 5 stars, I believe. Yes, 4 out of 5 stars. It was so spooky, so good. Highly recommend. Next, I read my first Lucy Score book ever, Pretend You're Mine. And this one follows Luke and Harper. Luke is he's in the army. I cannot remember. National Guard. He's in the National Guard. And Harper strolls into his town while he's on leave, and she ends up fighting a guy who was beating his wife in the parking lot, and Luke also comes in and helps too. And Harper's kind of homeless at the moment because she found out her boyfriend was cheating on her, so she jumped in, adios, and just kind of drove into this town and ran out of gas at the bar. So she ends up meeting all the small town people and growing relationships, and then her and Luke, thanks to Luke's scheming sister, decide to start fake dating to get Luke's family off of his back. And he is leaving to go back on tour for National Guard, and in I think it was a month. And so they have a very short little romance, and she ends up falling in love with him. Obviously, he ends up having feelings for her, and it was just such a cute romance because it delves into a lot of deep emotions. Definitely check trigger warnings for this book because there's definitely domestic violence, grief, PTSD, things like that. But it was just, it was so good. I loved it so much. I read it in like a day and a half because I couldn't put it down. I highly recommend it. Go read it. Next, I read my least favorite book of the month because I wanted to put a book in between Pretend You're Mine and its sequel, Finally Mine. So I decided to pick up Fumbled by Lizzie Stone. This is a football romance that I had an ER for that I definitely did not read by the published date. I'm really bad at that. Yeah, I did not like this book. It's about a guy who is a professional football player, and like there's this girl who's the reporter, and they actually went to high school together, and she tutored him in high school, and she also asked him to the prom, but then he kind of laughed in her face and was like, no. So she was like, she wants vengeance, but so she decides to go interview him dressed all sexy and see if he remembers her, and he ends up remembering her, and then they kind of like fall in love. Yeah, I did not like it. The big conflict of this book was so stupid and ridiculous and could have been solved with literally just like one question. It just seemed really pointless, and like for a book that has a shirtless hot football player on the cover, I expected a lot more spicy scenes. I think there was like a 1 or 2, and they weren't even written that well, so I don't want to talk about this book anymore. Next, I read Finally Mine by Lucy Score, and this is about Aldo and Gloria. And Gloria is a domestic violence survivor, and Aldo is also part of the National Guard, but you find this all on like first one. This is also in the summary of this. He ends up having to come home from tour because he got severely injured, and he kind of has to like learn how to live his life with his new injury. And this book, I absolutely adored it. I love Aldo. He was one of my favorite characters from the first book, and I love Gloria too, and I couldn't wait to see them together. But the thing is, you see them together in the first book, so this book is a lot of copy and paste from the first book, which really bugged me. It's what kept it from being a full 5 out of 5 stars, and I'm giving it like 4 out of 5 stars. So much of the same dialogue, so much of the same scenes. I wanted more originality about it. Like, we got new scenes between Aldo and Gloria, but I wanted more. I wanted so much more, and I didn't get it, so I was a little bit disappointed. But it still was really, really good, and I like seeing more. I did like seeing in Aldo and Gloria's head a bit when those scenes from the first book were happening. I did enjoy that. I just wish there was a little less than that, a little more new stuff. But it was very, very good. I highly suggest it. I cannot wait to read the third book because it follows one character in this that like everyone's kind of like, you're an idiot, what are you doing? And I'm just like, he's kind of like isolated, kind of like a player. I'm so excited for the third one. And this series is also on Kindle Unlimited, so you can go read it if you have Kindle Unlimited. And the last book that I read this month was Beneath the Alabaster Spire by Alison Carr Wetcher? I'm sorry, I'm terrible at pronouncing names, so I'm sorry if I butchered that. This is the second book in the Immortal Order series. It is the sequel to Dark Knight Golden Dawn. The first book I gave 3 stars. I gave this one 4 stars. This is a very unique magic system and society, and I absolutely love it. I don't really know how to explain it because it's just so quirky and odd, but it's really good. This series is also on Kindle Unlimited if you wanted to check it out. There are these superior beings called the Illuminates? I can't remember. My memory has not been there lately. But, so they're the higher ups, and then there's also like witches and vampires and like a bunch of different things. And humans are like the very bottom rung. Humans are like kind of like looked down on, like they think there's nothing special about them. So this follows Harlow and Finn. Finn is one of those upper beings, and Harlow is from a family of witches. And their relationship is so cute. I love their romance. They're so adorable. It's a really, really good book. And I can't wait to see where the plot goes next. So I do highly suggest this. It's kind of fun going into the series completely blind. The magic system does take a lot of getting used to. It does, but it's worth it, I promise you. So highly suggested. So that is my delayed and late June wrap up. Let me know what you guys read, and happy reading. Bye, you guys.